raining in the rest of Minnesota, but it's a gloomy day here. So first thing I want to kind of mention to everybody is the NAR lawsuit that is going on. We've all seen, verdicts and everything coming out. We're not going to make any kind of statement or anything on that because Randy is still digging into that. So just be patient as he looks through all that information. He wants to make sure we give the most accurate information before we say anything. So watch for that. The other thing is, if anybody's using Chime has changed its name to Lofty. So if you're going to see some emails, they did not get bought out. They didn't do anything like that. They're just doing a rebranding and changing their name to Lofty. No idea where this came from. But I am on a webinar next week. So I will watch that and then update you guys as soon as I get the information on that, any changes or anything else coming. And then for the 20 some people that signed up for the CE class today, I just want to do a reminder that that is today, 1 o'clock, St. Louis Park office building. So I will see a majority of you guys today for that. If you signed up for it, again, we had limited space on that. We filled that up pretty fast. So we're going to do some more CE coming up here. But just wanted to give you an update on that. Thomas, are we still waiting? I'm just looking at the list here.
I'm on. I believe Atrian's on. Atri, you there?
I didn't see him in the list yet. While we're waiting for that, we can do if anybody has any buyer or seller needs out there, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. We'll do that quick before we give the floor over. So does anybody have any buyer seller needs out there?
Oh, thanks, guys.
Oh,
I clicked on the Google Meet and I was just sitting in there by myself. So I apologize.
Oh, it's too funny. Give us 1 second. We're going to do buyer seller needs here quick. See if anybody has any. And then I'm going to give you guys over the floor.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Great.
Yeah. All right. Anybody got any buyer seller needs out there? One more time before we hand it over to the guys at 3 Bays Lending. All right. I am going to go ahead and hand the floor over to you guys. I'm expecting you to bring all the energy. We need it for a Tuesday. I definitely, I got my Starbucks, but I'm going to need some more energy from you guys.
Oh, well, I hope I bring that.
The floor is all yours.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, Jill. Thank you for the introduction, Randy, National Realty Guild. Happy to be on this call. For those of you who haven't met me, I'm Thomas Jusela. I'm one of the broker owners with 3 Bays. Atrian is going to be on the call as well, which is one of the other brokers. I've met Randy about 20 years ago when I got in the industry. So like our relationship goes pretty deep. We were invited to your guys' last meeting that you guys had at Cowboy Jackson Bloomington. We don't want to bore you with just your local loan products and talk about 2-to-1 buy downs. We want to bring something with some value. So with that said, I'm going to introduce Atch, and I'm just going to kind of let Atch take the floor, and I'm excited, man. So bring the pump, man. I'm excited for this. So thank you, Atrian.
Hey, thank you for having me. So some of you guys I met at Cowboy Jacks, and some of you I've not met, but I beefed this up a little bit for you guys. I'm going to go a little bit deeper than what we did before. Still short and sweet, but I want to bring some heat and maybe help you guys kick your Tuesday off pretty strong. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen here. Can you guys all see my screen right now?
Sure can.
Okay. So decision-making and selling with logic to make lots of money. I think we can all agree right now, given the current market conditions, we would all like to make a lot more money. So let's take some simple steps and just kind of go through this. one thing I just wanted to give everyone, Charlie Munger is like one of my favorite business human beings. He's Berkshire Hathaway and our famous investor, Warren Buffett's right-hand man. One of his famous quotes, the best thing a human being can do is to help another person know more. I think we could all agree in our industries, our job is education and financial literacy. And the better we get at that, the better we are going to be as salespeople. Couple things is, we touched on this in our last group, but I'm going to say this again. I have beliefs about selling. If it was up to me, I would give you 800 things that I believe about selling, but I think these ones kind of stick out to be the most important. First one is people want to believe you. They want to buy, and you must help them, their logical brains justify the decision. The second one is selling happens before you ask, closing begins after. I want you to think of selling as creating obstacles and closing as creating objections. And so in the front end of a sales process, if you can get to the obstacles first, it becomes much, much easier to handle the objections at the end. And I'll get into that a little bit more, but just think about that as a concept for yourself right now when you're selling folks. It's easier to handle obstacles than objections before you ask rather than after. All that said, expect and plan for no. It's not failure, it's expected. Stop being surprised. I think we can all agree that no is part of the process. And if you are calling leads, you're going to hear no. But the truth of the matter is everyone that puts their information in online is expecting to be sold. So whether or not they give you a yes or a no, you should expect no. Selling properly is the first step to becoming a coach. Your first impression and the expectations you set dictate the relationship. I think this one resonates really well for me because if I set the expectation that I'm going to do a bunch of things that I'm not going to do, my client experience is poor and the end result is not good. Selling is helping the prospect make decisions to help themselves. I want to say it again. Selling is helping prospects make decisions to help themselves. You are not selling you are selling them that the decision that they're about to make is the best decision for them. And I think that's where a lot of us just get it wrong. We got to focus on that. Like, we have to live in the customer pain. If we can't do that, we're not going to deliver what we need to our clients. Keep the prospect, not the sale, as the priority. It's not about you. I think we sometimes take a ambitious approach when we don't get a sale to say, I'm not going to work with that customer anymore. I would always say, keep that door open. Focus on keeping the prospect. Believe it or not, you can gain more referrals from the people that don't use you than the people who do. If they object, seek to understand, not to argue or be right. You don't win the sale by being right. And maintain childlike curiosity at all times. I X this off. I'll leave it there. I'm not going to read it out loud, but I believe that. Selling is the transference of beliefs over a bridge of trust. Therefore, you must have the belief in order to transfer it. What does that mean? If you do not believe that what you are selling and what you are offering is the best service in the process in the marketplace, they're going to experience that. Your conviction level will show that, and they'll likely not use you. So you have to have a high belief standard in order to have high conviction. And if you have high conviction, you want to buy. We've all been in a scenario where someone is selling us something and we really want to buy it, but we don't need it. But the person that's selling it to us, his conviction was so high that we wanted to buy the thing. We've been there. That's what customers feel. They need to feel that from you. If you don't believe, the team doesn't believe, and then no one believes. If everyone here believes that this market is bad, if everyone believes that this is a recession, if everyone believes that no one's going to sell their homes, and if everyone believes that interest rates are the worst they'll ever been in their entire life, you will bring that to your sale. And you know what? Your client's going to feel that. And if you say it's going to be tough, you know what? It's going to be tough. The leads don't suck. If you believe there is not one lead that doesn't represent it, listen, I want to say this. We've all seen Glenn Ross. He walks in there, he's got the knives, and he's doing the sales pitch, and he tells the guy to put the coffee down. But here's the thing. If you walk into a sales office and all of us were all together, and I asked you guys, how are the leads? And the first thing you said to me was, well, I don't know, maybe not that good. I would say, stop. I don't want to hear about it anymore. And if I turn around and I walk over to Thomas and I say, Thomas, how are the leads? You go, oh man, I'm just so blessed for this opportunity. I'm so lucky. I feel like if I call these leads, I'm going to have the best year ever. Some of them are not great, but you know what? At least I have the opportunity to call somebody. I don't care if that person is a better or worse salesperson than you, but because of their belief system and their ability to make more calls, they're going to close more business than you. That's plain and simple. Belief and trust are not continuums. They're not binaries. It's not yes, I believe you, or no, I do not. It is, how much do I believe you? How much did your prospect trust you? Or how much rapport did you build? It's not I did or I did not. And I think that this one gets measured incorrectly by a lot of us. It's like, hey, I had great rapport with the customer. Well, how much did you have? Did you have a lot or did you have little? And I think the reminder here for us all is, if a customer is sitting down with you face to face and they said, hey, I'm looking to meet a couple realtors to sell my house. Do you think that that person, if you're the first person in the door, is very interested in meeting 5 more people and bringing them into their home? Probably not. I wouldn't. So if you are the first person in the door and you don't get the sale, that's not on them. That's on you. That's because you did not create the objections up front to understand what you were solving for. And we'll get there. When does selling happen? Selling happens the entire time you're with the customer. The entire time. You are selling from the time you walk in the door, the time you answer the phone, the time you literally see them, you are selling. First impressions are exhibited in 4 seconds. If you are not smiling, if you are not excited, if you do not feel good, they will notice that within the first 4 seconds and make a decision as to whether or not they're going to use you. So here's the deal. Why this presentation will make you money? If after this, I've given you one more bullet in your chamber, one more play in your arsenal to close a deal, or like one more deal per month because you've used this framework, then I feel like my goal has been achieved. I don't care if you apply this today. I don't care if you apply one piece of it this month or one piece of it over the next 6. If it helps you close a loan, or close a deal, I should say, for me, close a loan. If it helps you close the deal, then I did my job. My goal is that your time commitment pays for itself and the time you took to be here. So I just want to say thank you all for showing up today that did. All right, how to spell expensive stuff, i.e. real estate. I use this framework because it works. It's made me a lot of money. I've shared this with Thomas. He really enjoys this as well, as does our sales staff and everybody we've shared it with. I think Jill's enjoyed this as well, if I'm not mistaken. Selling is a simple framework. Whoever cares most about the prospect wins. If you do not care, they will feel it. You will not win. If you care genuinely, wholeheartedly about them and their outcome, they will feel it and you will win. So here's the process flow. It's called closer, and we are all here to close more deals. C is to clarify, L is to label, O is to overview, S is to sell the vacation, E is to explain away concerns, and R is retention. And that starts at the initial call. You are literally starting to retain a client from the minute you get on the phone with them. So let's dive in. Clarify. If you've not clarified why you're meeting with the prospect, you have nothing to sell them. And I just want to say it again. If you're not creating objections when you meet with somebody, from the minute you start talking with them to solve for what they're looking for, you have nothing to sell them. So what does that look like? Hey, why did you insert meeting type, hop on the call, or meet me here for a listing today? Them, I just wanted to find out more about you and what your process is to sell a house. I say bullshit, pardon my French, but do you really think that person wants to spend their entire day meeting with 100 realtors to make a decision as to whether or not they're going to buy or sell their home? Probably not. They don't have time. When you're shopping for a car, you probably only look at 1 or 2 dealerships tops because of the time commitment you need to make for it. And we're busy. So again, I want to remind you, if you did not get the sale when you met with them the first time, that's on you. You did not clarify with them what they were looking to achieve. And so all things being equal, like break it down on a scale of 1 to 10, what makes this insert meeting type, face-to-face meeting, a 10 for you? And by doing that, you can let them set an expectation with you of what they're looking to achieve. Now, I want to relate this to our market. CMAs. Some of the top producing real estate agents in this country swear by CMAs right now. And I say CMAs, not to prospects, not to people you are just going to meet for listings, but your entire past database, quarterly. You want to give people an experience above and beyond. Do something that doesn't have value for your time in the moment. That value, I swear, will compound. If you made 100 CMA calls per quarter to past clients, if you had that many, that will compound into a referral. And it's simple. The referral isn't like, hey, do you have someone to help me? You can ask that question, but the referral is, hey, my realtor called me this morning and gave me a CMA on my house, and it's actually worth more than I thought. The news is full of it. And then I'd be like, oh, what's your realtor's name? Can I have his name? For sure. Here's his number. Referral. That's compounding interest on you doing the thing that you don't think makes you more money. All right. Label the problem. You create a relationship in a short period of time with acknowledgement. If you can label what their problem is, I don't understand house prices. I want to know if I'm paying too much. I want to know if my house is worth more than I think it is. I want to know if I sell my house, how long it's going to take. I want to know if I sell my house, is the interest rate going to be so high that I can't buy another house? These are all real concerns. So we need to figure out what their problem is that you're trying to solve for in their brain. Everybody has an expectation of something. It's just whether or not they decide to share it with you. So labeling the problem would sound like, let me know if I understood this correctly. Clarify from their response. Does this sound about right to you? Acknowledgement. If a client says to you, yeah, they're not listening. They don't care. They don't want anything you have. So you need to get back to clarifying and get some obstacles in front of you. Well, my mortgage is $399 and I know you're only going to list it for $415. That's a problem. You need to get to those objections so you understand what you're looking to overcome. All right. Overview. This is where you create the full acknowledgement of everything you've understood from your client. This is where you create the relationship. And here's the key. Some people take 45 minutes to do this. I bet Thomas and I can do this in under 15 minutes. The key to being in a relationship with somebody is asking childlike curiosity questions throughout the entire time, and then acknowledging what you've understood from your client. That's your overview. Questions sound like, what's your experience been starting the process? How long have you been thinking about starting this process? What has your experience been getting the value of home from the realtors? How many clients have you walked into their house and they go, well, Ted, this realtor that was here a couple of months ago, told me my house was worth $500,000. And you're looking at your CMA and you're saying, dude, this thing's not worth more than $395. It happens all the time. But that's where no and your moral and your character and your judgment become at the highest level of scrutiny. Being honest with that customer is the best thing that can happen for them. And you might walk away with nothing. But I can assure you, if you're honest, you might actually get something downwind when they wise up and understand that their expectation has been set all wrong. All right. Sell the vacation. If it has more than 3 steps, be prepared for objections. People need to have a simplified process. What happens in between 1, 2, and 3 doesn't really matter. As long as you've given a strategic path to get to 1, 2, and 3, they don't care. They'll do everything in between. But the simplified answer of step 1, get pre-approved, look at houses. Great. Step 2, make offers, sign deal. Great. Step 3, close. There's a lot that happens in between those 3 steps. I get it. But with your conviction and your beliefs in your process and steps, they're going to be very interested to work with you for the simplification of that process. So I want to remind everyone here too, we're really good at what we do. And some of us have been in the business a very long time. That is a beautiful thing and a curse at the same time. The more time we've been in this business, the more complicated we sell. And so you've got 2 types of clients. You've got clients that prey on emotional intelligence and clients that prey on logical intelligence. And I would argue, if you are a seasoned sales rep, you've gone from emotional clientele base to more logical clientele base. And just think about that and audit your time for a second. When you first started selling, you were spitballing, and most of the clients you got were making emotional decisions. And as you've grown in your career, your conversations, expectation setting, and vacation selling has all been logical. And your clients make logical decisions. So in the continuum of sales, you might fall somewhere in between. You might fall fully emotional or fully logical, but selling the vacation is that part of the process. All right. I'm not going to go into this entire deck, but there's some good tidbits within this, so you can read some of them. The key here in sales is short anecdotal stories to create relationships with others, either far past experience, current, or future experiences you're about to have that relate to the customer you're about to talk to. So if you haven't done any form of research on your prospect before you meet them, and I mean any, like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, whatever social medium that they may be on, see if there's any form of connection between you, you're wasting your time. You need to know at least one thing about that prospect before you meet them in order to understand how to harness their vacation. So, if you start a conversation when someone says yes with a bunch of stuff that they need to do, don't be surprised if they walk away. Your enrollment in the process should be the most simplified part of the process. What happens after is the complex piece. All right. Nobody wants to hear these lines or objections. I put these in here. I'm checking with a few lenders. I'm meeting a few other realtors. I'm just seeing what's out there and gathering information. These are all objections. If you haven't clarified the obstacles up front, you're likely to get objections like this. You're not going to get, it's going to be very hard to get past these objections because they've already made a decision that they want to continue looking. So rewind, look at your sales process, look at what you said, look at the moments within your conversation. And I got a secret for you. If you whisper or lower your voice when you're talking to them on the call or in person, they're going to lean in to listen to you. So the difference is the level of service and how they want to get there. This is your differentiator. Count on statements, being your word, and delivering good and bad news with empathy. We've all know those people that set the calendar invite for Thursday when they find the bad news on Monday. And then they only have one deal in their pipeline every month. And then we know that guy that literally swims through all the problems and you just can't figure out why this guy can just literally navigate a landmine field without any issues. That's because he just hits it on the head every day. All right, explain away their concerns. I have to remind myself, I should say, that when I'm selling clients, if I can't live in their pain, or remember that if Thomas tells me a story about something that he's done, that I'm not going to be able to repeat that story as good as Thomas, then I'm kidding myself. And so the reason I say that is, if you are talking to one of two decision makers in a household, and they say they need to speak to their other decision maker, if you are not rebooking a time to meet with them both, you are wasting your time. You have no idea the negative, neutral, or positive mentality or empathy they had within your sales process to decide if they wanted to use you. So that could show up like, yeah, he was really nice, but he didn't really get me where I wanted to go. And he very well could have, to the prospect, got the other partner very well close to where they wanted to go. You just don't know. So make the extra effort, book the call. Decision maker, past agreements, circumvent. Listen, you have to literally make agreements with them all. Agreements being, hey, listen, I know that we just chatted and your spouse wasn't present. Are you okay meeting again this evening with your spouse? They say, yes, that would be great. You've now made an agreement to meet with them. The difference between a forceful agreement and a agreed upon situation with a prospect is if you say to them, I'm going to call you at 4 today, and they go, okay. And then you call them at 4 and they don't answer. They didn't agree to that. They didn't agree at all. But if you say, hey, Mr. Prospect, I'm going to give you a call at 4 p.m. today. Does that work great for you? No, it doesn't. Is there a better time that would work? Yes, 5 p.m. would be perfect. Okay. Are we in agreement? I'm going to call you at 5? Yep. They've now agreed to make a call with you at 5 p.m. versus demanding that call from them. Very different outcome of them likely to answer the phone. This is you explaining more of their concerns and meeting them where they're at. People are afraid to make mistakes because they don't like making decisions. Literally, most people let life make decisions for them because they are scared to make the decision that they need to make. So if someone needs to sell their house and they've met 20 realtors, that's because they're scared shitless of the decision, or they're not telling the person that they're meeting the true obstacles that they are facing to sell their house or buy. Same for us in mortgage. Oh, you know what? I think I got to shop around. That just tells me that the payment was higher than they needed it to be. All right, retention. This starts immediately after your initial meeting with a client. As soon as you walk out of their house, take a picture with you in front of it and just say, hey, I just want to let you know, I'd feel honored to sell your house for you. Look at this beautiful home. Thank you so much for the time today. You've just made a warm and fuzzy. Great. Send them a handwritten note. Give them a card. Do something unique outside of any other prospect in the marketplace. You gave them a CMA when you presented that sale agreement. You know what? 1 week later, call them up and say, hey, I've updated your CMA. There's been some more activity in your area. Done. All right. Conviction made real. Real estate and mortgage sales. Thomas and I enjoy the Glengarry Glen Ross. The knife scene is the ultimate scene of sales. If any of you have been in sales for a very long time, you've definitely seen this movie before, and you certainly know what this is. Daily actions to improve your mindset, and I'm gonna wrap this. Reread customer testimonials out loud daily in front of others. If you have a Google review page, read them. Read them, read them, read them. That is your reminder that you do a good job and you are a great person and you get it done. If it's a company Google review, go read them. Read them out loud to your team. People need to hear the positive affirmations. Fix everything you can about your process and never blame a customer for lack of success. Leaders to address, plug the holes. Listen, if you're on a team or an individual, the only reason you lost the sale is because of you. I'm sorry, I hate to say that. It might hurt your feelings, but if you met a prospect in person and they decided to go with somebody else, you made that happen for them. They made that decision because of your sales process, not theirs. Yes, you could say, oh, they decided to go out at a higher price. Well, you know what? Maybe that other realtor had a better trick in his sleeve with prospective buyers, higher CMA values based on better market data. You don't know. But what you do know is they decided to work with somebody else, and you had an opportunity to get them to work with you. Never stop improving. Listen, the best people listen to their sales. I would encourage you once, twice, 3 times a week to record one of your sales calls with a prospect and listen to what you said. I'm going to tell you right now, you might grind your teeth. You might go, I said that, because only the best players watch their own reels. And I assure you, if somebody is doing 100 or 200 or 300 million in real estate sales in this country, they are recording their sales and they are listening to themselves. The reason salespeople get beat up is because they don't put the work in, because it grates on their soul. Eventually they burn out, not because they can't handle no, but because of how they feel about themselves. This is the last statement I'm going to say to you in this presentation and we're over. But what I'm essentially saying to you is, if you know what you need to be doing and you are not doing it, and you do that long enough, i.e. not do what you need to do, it will eat at you. And you'll show up every day with a little less and a little less and a little less, because you know that you're not doing what is absolutely necessary to win. And so the end result will be burnout, but it's not burnout because you're tired. It's burnout because you know you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing to be successful. That's it.
100%.
So I just want to say, if anybody's got any questions, it's a good time. I will give this deck out to all of you, but you need to book a time with Thomas Rye to get the deck. I don't want this dangerously going out so you guys can go fluff this off to all your friends. There's good information in here, and I just want to make sure we've got a clear understanding of what this is going to do for your business. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm gonna start out with the first question I have for you. What do you guys do every morning, I guess, to get yourself ready for the day? To, you know, put those good things out into the universe, get your mindset right, because I really do feel like you guys have something that you do that we need to hear about.
Thomas, you can start.
And I'm gonna hop in, but like pick someone up when they're down, right? Put some wind in their sails. So it's like, if you, Atch and I are a united front, right? So it's not just me, the way that we just handle things. And like last night, we were on the phone for a little over 2 hours, just going after scenarios, going after, you know, like, hey, what do you think of this? Like, you know, if you're, you know, so we are always constantly going back and like, we're trying to make each other better, right? So like, sincerely, if you guys wanted to schedule time to book with us, like, I want to hear what you're doing. I want to hear where you're winning. I want to hear where you're losing, right? So it's like, you are who you surround yourself with, right? So if you're just on this inevitable battle by yourself and you're losing and you're not changing what you're doing, it'll eventually just destroy you, right? So it's like, it's good to have someone else's voice that wants to see you doing better, wants to see you level up, right? So it's just, it changes your whole mentality, because let's face it, especially in the industry right now, our industry is already full of stress, right? So I think a lot of it's who you surround yourself with and who your support group is. I mean, would you agree with that, Atch? Or
100%. She said the morning. Thomas calls me first thing in the morning. I get up pretty darn early because I got kids. So I'm going to tell you this. I just like at least 15 to 30 minutes of complete quiet.
Yep.
this is the second thing. This is a little pro tip, but we all have drive time. I try and call 3 to 5 people that I have not touched in a long time and just say, how are you? What's going on? Anything you want me to know? And if they ask what's going on with me, I'll share. But interestingly enough, if I stay consistent on my 3 reach outs on my cell phone in the car to 3 random people that are not in my call history in the last month, it seems to generate some business.
And I mean, and starting off your day, just to kind of touch more on that, find something that works for you in the morning, whether that's breathing, exercising, reading a book, because we wake up and we're reactive, right? Like what I used to do is first thing I do is I wake up, I'm on my cell phone, right? Well, I'm not like getting my day ready, getting like where I want my day to go. So it's like even before I go to bed, I lay out my 3 major goals that I'm going to knock out today, right? So those are my 3 priorities that I'm going to make sure that I knock out. And one of those things is my own personal time, right? So it's just, because once you start being reactive, like your day is pretty much gone and you're going to spend most of your day just reacting to everything else and you're not controlling the day.
I have a question for all of you that have decided to join us today. And again, thank you. Have any of you, and you can raise your hand or just hit a button, but have any of you experienced the difference between an obstacle and an objection, as we talked about that in the presentation today? Do you guys understand the difference between those two? Must get it. Okay.
I think you should probably go into that a little bit deeper.
Okay. All right. And I just want to make sure we're all clear and we understand this, because right now we're in a very tough market. And so understanding the difference between the two is really important. You generate obstacles through answers to questions. So when you start the sales process, i.e., when you are selling, when you are asking your client questions and they are giving you answers, you are creating your own obstacles. So think of that for a second. You walk into the prospect's house and you say, hey, my name is Thomas. I thank you so much for having me in your home to potentially have your house listed for sale. What would you have me know that I don't know already? And the first thing they say is, this guy thinks he knows something. Great. Now they're going to tell you, well, I need to list my house for X dollars. Ding, ding, you just got an obstacle. Second response, and I would not answer that question. I would say, great, thank you for sharing. What else would you have me know about selling your house? Are there any issues going on? Or are there any things that upgrades that you've made? Well, I put $50,000 into the kitchen. You look at the kitchen and you're like, that doesn't look like a $50,000 kitchen. Ding, 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 you've got an obstacle. And so now you've learned everything you can from your client and you get into the process where you go into the close, i.e., they've acknowledged what you said, they're interested in what you're saying, and now you're going to go to close them, i.e., sign on the line to get their home listed for sale. You know what, Mr. Customer, Mr. Thomas, thank you so much for having me here. I'd be honored to list your house. I feel like this meeting has gone very, very well. What would you have me know? Yeah, it's been going real well. And if they seem like they're on the fence, ask them questions to give you an answer of how you did. Like, I use this one when a customer's tough and it works literally every time. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate our call today? 10 being great, 1 being not so great. And they go 6. And you go, great. What would have made it a 10? And then they tell you, now you know exactly what they were looking for that they weren't willing to share with you. Some people will be like, that's a dumb question, but most people laugh and they're willing to give you the answer. Then you go into the sale and you say, okay, I'm going to list your house for 6.5%. And they go, oh, that's too high. I can't afford it. And you go, what do you mean? Can't afford it? Now you're getting objections, i.e., these are the barriers to them signing on the line to close the sale. So the difference is, in the beginning, the obstacles are what they tell you that you need to overcome in your sale. And the more obstacles you uncover, the easier the objections become. The less obstacles you uncover when you go into your sale and have objections, the more objections you receive when trying to make the sale. Does that align for everyone now, as I've said that, to make more sense? Sweet. I hope that this helps you guys get one more deal, one more sale, one more phone call, one more something today.
I love this and I'll never get sick of hearing this because I have little takeaways every time that I hear it. So thank you. Appreciate everyone taking their time.
Does anybody have any questions for these guys?
You can put them in the chat and I'll answer them as well. So if you got anything you want to say or any questions you have, throw them in the chat and I'll answer them right away.
Thanks for doing the meeting today. Appreciate it.
You're
No
welcome.
problem.
For having us.
Are there any ARM lending programs you guys have? Bob, yes, there is on Jumbo. Conventional loan products make no sense. Our fixed rate products on 30-year conventional loans, i.e. 750 loan amounts and below, only do fixed rate products. They price better than ARMs.
Atch, would you explain why that's changed in the ARMs and basically how ARMs are priced now and what's different today, just so other people can maybe understand this a little more?
Yeah, I think ARMs get used as a cheat code, right? Like we're in a sales process. We want to get a customer to sell their house. And then we say, well, you know what? On the new house, you can just buy an ARM because you're going to refinance anyways. And then they go explore the loan products. And now you created an expectation with your client that they can get an ARM at a lower rate. And they want to buy. It's not the case right now. So ARMs were traditionally on a LIBOR index. Okay. We've heard about it in the news. If any of us experienced the time through 2008, LIBOR was target in the news. It was a manipulated system that created lower and higher interest rates. So what we've done is we've moved to what's called the SOFR rate, which is the sovereign overnight funds rate. And this one is extremely volatile. And at the current moment in time with inflation and where things are, it is extremely high. So I'll give you an example. Yesterday I had a prospect, swore I can get an ARM. ARMs are best. 30-year fixed, 7 3/8. 7-1 ARM, 7.875 costing 4 points. Doesn't make any sense. So ARM, yes. I think I want to give you guys one more tool in the arsenal on loan products that I think is the biggest miss out there. Down payment assistance programs are not just designed for people with poor credit or low incomes. Down payment assistance programs are designed for first-time home buyers, not predicated to a group of people. It's to all of them, okay? And so if your client is a first-time home buyer, they can put 3% down. They can buy a house for $783,000 right now for $23,000. That's insane. I'm not kidding. I remember when the loan limit was 417 and like, that is just crazy. I'm going to give a thumbs up. So, yeah. Any other questions about products or loans? Let me know.
I'm gonna ask the question just because I know it's coming up with most real estate agents right now. How are you guys doing the objection back to the client when they say interest rates are too high, I'm gonna wait? Because I know that a majority of us are getting that question, and I'm just really curious to see what your response back to a client is on that.
Well, I'll take this one right off the bat. If these people do not start buying homes, and when I say these people, I mean the younger generation, ages 25 to 33 years old. If they do not buy right now, the likelihood of their home ownership drops by like 70% by the time they're 35. So we have a problem. In 2008, we had this many homes for sale and this many household formations. Okay. Now flip to 2023, we have this many household formations and this many homes for sale. That is a problem. And so what I tell my prospects or my customers, or even this pre-approved client that I just talked to the other day, like last Friday, if you do not buy a house right now, the likelihood of you buying a home is zilch. And if you do not buy a house, the likelihood of you growing in wealth is staggered significantly. And then I tell them my story, my first house, my second house, how I built the houses, etc. Had I not owned real estate, I would not have been able to do what I did in housing. And I think a lot of folks really just don't understand the value in real estate. We may be flat, 1.4% appreciation. Okay, but in what continuum? 1 month? 6 months? A year? Because I can assure you right now, if rates go to 6%, everybody's house has just got 15% more expensive.
Correct.
So
And the other, not to interrupt, but I mean, it goes back, why are they on the phone with me talking about getting a home loan if the rates are too high for them, right? So the curiosity is there. So I have to volley that back of, okay, well then why are we on the phone if you think interest rates are too high? What are we talking about buying a home? And just giving them the knowledge of where the current market's at. And for every 1% that interest rates are going to drop, 5 million more buyers are going to enter the market. Well, we already have a scarcity of inventory. So rates goes down, affordability goes up, you have more buyers in there, the property values are going to increase, right? So, and we know what like the big hedge funds are doing, and they're gobbling up all this other real estate, right? Well, they're not going to turn around and put that back on the market. So it's just educating them and getting, the fear mongering and like what's in our daily news is really what's impacting a lot of this. And it's really up to us to educate the buyers or sellers of like really what's going on in our marketplace.
I'll give you one more piece to the objection. I try to re-navigate or reframe the mindset of every prospect to not focus on the rates, because the rates really don't matter. What matters is the budget and the amount you can spend per month. And that dictates everything else. And I'll tell you what, when you stay within your budget, you win. And when you refinance and save $500 a month, you just won again. So look at everything as a win, not as a loss. Yes, rates are higher. Yes, the barrier of entry is harder. Cool. I understand the problem. But here's the win. You get your budget in line now, and then you get a raise and you refi to a lower rate, you win again. And now you're saving more money and you own a home that you wouldn't have had before.
I think it goes back to, and I'm just going to use this as a example. I think it goes back to how I get my clients is you guys' approach is very much like what I do. I am a no BS person. And I think in real estate, we've always been taught to like skirt around things or like listen to the client or do different things like that. One thing that has gotten me where I am today is because of the fact that I do not BS people, and I say, this is what it is. This is what it's not. This is what you can do. If not, so you give them like 3 options after you've listened to them. And figuring out those things. It's like you said, it's that vacation piece to it, like listening to them and then picking out those points and using those points to your advantage. So it's crazy when you just like step back and you really put yourself in that mindset instead of, I don't sell myself. I do not. It's all about listening.
Correct.
The only other thing I'm going to say in here, there was a question kind of in between, about foreclosures.
Yeah, I just responded to that. So, frankly, we're still far below any number that anyone would have ever thought we would have had from a recession indicator or a foreclosure crisis. Are there foreclosures? Yes. Are there issues with the marketplace and people not paying their mortgages? Sure. But I guess I want to remind everyone, for all intents and purposes, we are in the best economy ever. The only thing that's different is rates are high. And I'll tell you what, if rates were 3%, nobody would be complaining about a damn thing right now. Let's just be honest.
And like some of the trends that are changing, and actually, and I chat about this, like don't let your low interest rate hold you hostage, right? So I'm starting to get people that are refinancing, doing cash out, debt consolidation. Yeah, their rates like double of where they're at, but right now I have a family and I'm saving $1,700 a month. So what does that interest rate really mean, right? So it's like I'm saving you $1,700 a month. That's huge impact. That's definitely going to change their entire situation and down the road that they're going to refinance. And I think you're going to see more people taking advantage of their equity. And I think you will see people doing some debt consolidation because credit usage and where people are at some of the highest levels we've ever had in the history of the US, right? So it's getting out and educating those people, like trying to hold on to that super low interest rate. Meanwhile, you're holding $70,000, $80,000 in credit card debt at 24.9%. right? People are going to access their equity and get rid of that.
I agree. Thomas just gave you a free marketing tip that I don't know if anybody paid attention to, but there is an email that works. And the email that works is there's two. One, are you recession proof? And then go into a dialogue about CMAs or prospect selling. The second is, are you letting your record low interest rate hold you hostage in your home? We have a debt crisis. Everyone's got credit card debt right now. Some people bought homes in 2019. I'd go back to your database that they don't love. And they might be sitting on a ton of equity and could clean up their balance sheet, go buy a real nice house and keep it very close or similar, or maybe a 25% greater payment than they have today. Look for those uncovered opportunities. Look back in time to create relevance to today. I look at past customers of my own to create relevance for them now. So some good opportunity. So I
Anyone
got
have anything out there today? And you have our emails in the chat. Jill's got our contact information. If something pops up, just reach out to either Action or myself. More than happy to help answer any questions or have any conversations with you guys.
I do want to address one more thing on the lending side, just because I know it's been another question at the brokerage. We have a lot of listings that are just kind of sitting right now. What would you tell somebody who has, 4 or 5 listings that are, not getting a ton of action? What else could they do maybe on that lender side, to maybe help get those properties sold a little bit faster?
I'm going to go back to my presentation and maybe ask the question, are they priced correctly for the current market that we're in? And I know that hurts to answer that question that way. And I know we all want a lot more business, but the power of no to a request that seems unreasonable is way more valuable than just saying yes. And what you'll find is that the more successful the person is, the more they say no. And so I want to go back to what we would do in those situations. One, I would say, let's look at the CMA and ask if we've listed the house correctly. And then to get the lender involved, again, I don't know what obstacles we're overcoming. Are we selling at that price because we need to pay a mortgage off? Are we selling at that price because we need those funds to buy another house at the price point we want? Are we selling at that price because we're greedy and we want to make more money? And so I think to answer the question as a blanket statement is there's not a simple answer for all, but there's a shit ton of pardon my French, sorry. There are a ton of tools in our arsenal from a lending perspective to give clients an incentive to buy a home. Limitless, buy downs, total discount points, free appraisals, free credit reports, appraisal waivers depending on down payments, FHA, free down payments, conventional free down payment, 200K purchase price. You make under 99,000 bucks. If you buy a house for 200,000, you literally need $2,000 to buy that house. That's it. There's a million opportunities on the lending side. You just ask the questions or give us the objections that you have in selling that home so we can help you better find a way to sell that house.
I think that's what I wanted you to say is in the selling of a house, we don't often think that we need to, include a lender in on there. We think we can do it ourselves as realtors, but exactly what you just said, it's figuring out what's the next steps. Where are they going? What are they doing? So it is a good idea to have that tool in the toolbox to bring in a lender and go, hey, what's the objective?
I agree. Listen, a lot of people talk about selling the buyers, like lenders call you and ask about your buyers. I am more than open to doing Zoom calls with all your sellers.
And another thing too, that I think some people are diving into, but a lot are overlooking, If I were an agent, example, I'd be asking my seller what type of loan that they have, right? So you may have an assumable loan and you might be able to get more of a premium for your house. So let's say maybe this house is overpriced by 20 grand. Well, if someone's able to take over a loan at a 2.75% interest rate, that might be a little more palatable, right? Like I'm going to pay $20,000 for this house because I'm going to take over an interest rate that's at 2.75%. And some of the other sellers are getting creative, right? Where they're doing sellers financing, which is obviously doesn't help benefit myself, Ash, or anyone in our industry. But maybe there's something that's there where your seller is like, okay, I will do seller financing. I'll pay the listing agent's commission or the buyer's agent's commission, but I'm going to want X and I'm going to give you 5 years at an interest rate of 3%. And after 3%, you're going to refinance out of this into something else. So I think some of those are the questions that I would be asking anyone that I'm listing their property, you know, and their flexibility, because some people, they're not in a situation where they need to sell. That's not going to be everyone, you know, every size fits all example, but definitely something that I would be considering if I was an agent in today's market.
Say question on that. I know FHA is assumable. Is there other types that are too? Or
VA,
I should say
FHA,
FHA if it was done right is. What was that?
VA loans are assumable. I would never advise a vet to do that because if a veteran allows someone else to assume their loan, that they lose their VA benefits, right? So, but USDA, I believe, are assumable as well.
Thank you.
Yep. Good question.
go ahead. I think we got one more over there.
I have a question about someone being able to buy a home with just $2,000. What kind of loan is that? People live on budgets and they need to be able to live within that budget. So
On that particular loan product, that's a conventional loan product. I think this is kind of a little known secret in the space of lending. And I should say secret, like I wish this was like plastered on billboards everywhere. They look at 80% of the area median income. And if you make under the 80%, Fannie or Freddie Mac will give you 2% of the down payment for completely free, no strings attached. So not a loan, not a has to hold the house for literally 2 years or whatever. When they say 1% down payment and the other 2 is provided, it's literally free. So you ask about the budget. The other little known benefit to the first time home buyer 3% down with the 1% from the buyer down payment program is there is absolutely zero adjustments to the interest rate. And so in effect, a first time home buyer could buy a condo with 3% down and get 2% for free and have an interest rate cheaper than a second time home buyer.
what would that interest rate be?
I think yesterday, well, I didn't look at rates yet this morning, but as of yesterday on a conventional loan, it was like 7.5%. A second time buyer on a condo was at 8.25%. It's almost a 3/4 difference in rate. No adjustment.
How about investors? How about investors who want to purchase?
Investors do not get that luxury. Now, on November 18th, you can buy a primary 2 to 4 unit with as little as 5% down, and that did roll out. But investors are traditionally and will be traditionally treated the same, 20% down. I will say this, if they have a history of doing the job, you can use programs like debt service coverage ratio or DSCR or business or personal bank statement loans to purchase a home at 10% down. The rate, maybe not so attractive, but the capital investment less.
And so their interest rate is going to be higher, right?
Maybe 9 or 10%. Yes.
Ooh. That's not funny.
Do you have any do you have any loans with 0% down?
We do.
Oh, great.
We have FHA and conventional down payment assistance programs.
Okay. Oh, that's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
There was a question in the chat too about how buyer buy downs work.
Yeah. Good question. Do you guys want me to show you maybe one, how it works?
Yeah.
You actually like to maybe see the math on like a buy down?
Mhm.
I would.
Okay. Hey, Thomas, do me a favor.
Yeah.
And just give me a base rate on a 30-year fix right now.
Base rate, with points or without.
Just assume it's 0.
7.5%.
Okay.
Now, when you do that, can you figure out what the savings would be if there's any savings within 5 years? Because if somebody does do a buy down, but then they redo the loan within a 5-year period, if they drop, just kind of curious if they're paying more or if they're actually making out.
Who is that by the chance? Sorry, I didn't catch your
Dennis
name.
Berger.
Dennis. Hey. So Dennis, I think that's a valid question if the customer's paying for the points, and what you look for is total interest paid or total what is it called? The tip, essentially total interest paid on the mortgage. I use a 32-month calculator, and I'll share both those with you guys. This is what I do when I call it my loan slayer because it truthfully can help you sell against someone who's given a huge buy down on rates. But I'll share my screen here real quick and show you guys just a 2-1 buy down, and then you guys we'll move into how I calculate the savings there. So we'll just take a loan amount of 300,000 and the purchase price of, let's call it 330, and they put 30 grand down. Okay. Interest rate of 7.5%. It's a 30-year loan. PMI, if it's a first-time home buyer, has a very low factor, and then estimated escrow amount annually, let's call it 4,500 with taxes and insurance. That might be low. Let's go 5,500. So if I want to do a 2-1 buy down, right? And then I tell them that it's a seller concession. In this particular instance, that 2-1 buy down on a $300,000 loan amount costs 2.166%, or a total cost of $7,148. I think there's something that's really important for you guys all to understand about buy downs that maybe is a little bit misunderstood. The buy down payment, or this annual savings, this buy down payment right here, the 4731 and then the 24,728. If in 12 months the customer paid off their mortgage on exactly month 12, their net payoff on their mortgage would be reduced by 2,417.28, because in effect, a buy down is essentially just prepaid interest from the seller. And so any of this 7,148.52 that is not used on the buy down at a time of refinance is given back to the buyer in the form of a principal reduction on their loan, meaning the balance of their loan is reduced by that interest amount. So buy downs are great opportunities. In this instance, if it's 7.5, they go to 5.5, and then 6.5, and then it shows you the monthly savings for each of those years. The second question was interest paid over the time frame.
I guess I'm sorry. I was thinking of more of the points when somebody buys points down on their loan.
Yep. And I'll show that with you. And so I use a really easy calculator. We'll take the same terms here, a $300,000 loan at a 7.5% interest rate. Points, actually, let's go 7.25, just hypothetical here. And let's say that costs 1.567 in discount. Lender fees of 1,055. I'm going to leave the prepaid interest at 0 just so we know. And then we're going to give them the opportunity of the 7.5 interest rate with 0 points, 1,055. So in this scenario, the difference in APOR is pretty stark, right? So if you look at the higher cost scenario, this is their APR in the first 6 months, their APR in the next 12, and then their APR over the 32-month period, okay? If you look at my higher rate option, which loan is actually cheaper from an APR perspective or interest paid, total interest paid? The higher interest rate option. And that's because on average, a consumer, I think there's a concept here that we really just fundamentally don't pay attention to. when you are buying down the interest rate, you are in effect prepaying interest on your mortgage. And so that factors into the total interest paid. And so I want to remind everyone here in our closer framework that when we went through the clarifying process and the sales process, when we tell people we're paying points, we need to make sure that they understand that if they refinance in 32 months, there is in effect no value other than the short-term gain of a lower payment, but they are losing money on total interest paid.
And I'm going to kind of touch base on this too, because like we get these loan scenarios and someone gives us an interest rate and says they're not paying any discount points. And then I ask them, can you send me the loan estimate that you have? And then we're looking at the loan estimate and they're not being charged points, but then they're being charged origination, right? Which points and origination are the exact same thing, but from the consumer standpoint, they don't know that, right? So that's kind of where we come in and we educate them. But I mean, yeah, normally when you break it down like Atrium did, it really doesn't make sense to buy that interest rate down.
No, especially now knowing that the Fed has decided that they're going to pause rate hikes. We're probably looking at the first rate reduction in Q3 of next year. Anybody buying a house right now is going to be refinancing in the next 12 to 18 months. And so, what I've told customers is you need to plan to refi within 32 months. That's just shy of 3 years. And if I'm looking at the next 3 years, that's why I focus on total monthly payment, not on actual interest rate, because the payment's what dictates the budget. And then to sell that win again, right, is to say, listen, your rate drops. I mean, just even in a comparison perspective, if we were to drop this interest rate down to 6.5, this client would have a no questions asked, would be willing to do the buy down. And look, it just got that much cheaper again. Now they're at 4.5%. But you got to remember, if people are going to refi in 32 months, we need to make sure we help them understand how to protect their money. And if their savings account is going to pay them 6, 5.5, 4.5, 5.5%, the conversation I always have with my customers is I always try to borrow the most amount of money at the lowest interest rate possible. Those are counterintuitive statements, meaning the most amount of money might be 90% for someone to get the cheapest rate. It might be 80% for someone, but whatever works for you to get the most amount of money at the cheapest rate is how you would want to finance your house.
So average, what is it going to cost them to refinance? What do they have to prepare for?
I mean, if you exclude the title cost, because that's the variable on loan size, in general, like just your lender's policy and recording fees, in general, you're looking at somewhere between $3,500 to $5,500.
Do you have anything free about that? No, I'm kidding.
Well, I mean, you can also structure it. So like if you own the home right now, right? So let's just say I started your loan application. I would close your loan in the month of December, tell you to hold off on making your payment on December. So instead of you making your December payment, I'm paying off your loan with your new loan. So now you don't have a payment for the month of December. Then you have a 30-day grace period for the month of January, making your first payment due February 1st. So out of pocket, you're skipping 2 payments, right? You're still paying for it, but I mean, that's how I would try to propose and structure pretty much any refinance that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any questions around the real estate commission stuff that's coming up and how that's going to look?
Sure, go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time educating
Good
myself on
news
how
or bad
this
news?
work. So here's the
How
deal.
is that going to work for somebody getting a loan is my kind of question.
Yeah.
If they're looking at, because I mean, aren't we as basically agents going to have to do a better job of saying, hey, I know you're selling your house, and right now everybody is saying don't pay anything to the buyer's agent, but that's just going to limit the type of buyers that are going to be able to afford your house. I mean, I'm already kind of working on a pitch here as far as what I'm going to say to my sellers, because I mean, how are you going to structure a loan when somebody's got basically no cash to bring to the table and they're supposed to hire an agent to be able to represent them and get the transaction taken care of correctly in their interest?
let me reframe your thought process around that a little bit. They're not saying that there is no buy-side agent commission. What they are doing is decoupling the commission from the sell-side conversation with your prospective seller. So what does that mean? When you walk into the house and you say, I'm going to sell your house for 6%, that's because you're in effect negotiating the buy-side and sell-side commission. And what's essentially being proposed now is you're just only there to negotiate your sell-side commission. And what in effect will happen is when you're making offers or you receive an offer, me, Atrion, the realtor, will make the offer with my commission as a part of that offer to be paid by your seller. Okay. And so previously, your commission was dictated by whatever agreement the listing agent had with prospective seller, which then generated activity or no activity on a house. Now, you might have an offer that comes in to your seller that's far beyond the original list price, but the buying agent might say, hey, we're willing to make this offer contingent upon a buy-side agent commission of 2% and earnest money of X and a close date of Y. That's how that's going to start to move in the future. It's not in effect eliminating buy-side agent commission. It's just decoupling them from the sell-side pitch to the prospective client. And here is why this is going to be challenging in the real estate space. You're going to have a conversation about commission. And you're going to have to explain value, not on just the sell side, but on the buy side as well to justify how you're paid. And that is what is going to wash people out of this business because they're uncomfortable talking about how much money they're supposed to make for providing their service.
How does that go with, I mean, I think I'm going to need a new, presentation on just disclosures when it comes to receiving offers and what I can say to another prospective agent. Because so if you're a seller right now, I can ask you all kinds of questions on, once I get done presenting the offer to you, and I have two offers, can I disclose certain, I can then ask about certain questions, price, terms, motivation about those offers, disclosing them to the other potential buyer's agent to see if I can gain some leverage in negotiations with them on a purchase price. So then it kind of goes into just basically I got to start looking at what I can ask as far as So I guess my question would be disclosing what that percentage is, and then the ultimate dollar. I just have to work that into my program as well, basically. Then, you know what I mean? Because it's ultimately what that seller's going to take away in commission that's going to gain or break a sale sometimes. So it isn't, So if you offered 130,000 for a property and you're asking 2%, and Thomas offers 130 for a property, but he's offering 1% for so there's going to be more of a, there's a lot more complexity to it when you have all the other terms in a transaction, is what I'm saying. But yeah, I get it. Thank you.
Yeah, Dennis, I guess I would just say again, listen to what you had just said, and all you've done in that conversation is just acknowledge that you're going to have to talk about commission. That's it.
I have no problem talking about it.
Right. But there are plenty out there that have a very hard time explaining or justifying why or how much they should be paid. That's going to be your advantage. So again, let people complain about that. And while they're focused on that, you continue selling and then you win again. And then you win even more because they're just not doing it.
Thanks again.
Yeah.
I am going to say this because I know we are over time, and again, time is our most precious asset. I am going to invite both of these guys back, and we will have another conversation around this, and we will definitely have Randy on that conversation as well. Just because there's all sorts of things out there right now about this, but I'm gonna take it back to being real. real conversations, real things. I think that's the number one thing that we got out of today. So I appreciate you guys' time so much. I appreciate everybody on the call. We are going to do this again. So definitely. Any closing statements from you guys?
Yeah. Listen, if there's particular
Sure.
topics or challenges you guys are facing in the marketplace, take inventory of those and share those with us. And when we come back, I would love to give you guys more tools for the arsenal to combat the very common objections you're seeing.
No one really wants to work for nothing. They really don't. So
I would agree. Yes.
snap out of it.
I'll leave you with this. You either have a life of abundance or a life of scarcity. And a scarcity mindset is the scariest place you can be. A scarcity mindset is the rates are too high. There's no homes for sale. I have no prospects. This isn't going to get better. An abundance mindset is I woke up today. Thank God. I have people who love me. And there's people out there who could truly benefit from the product or service I'm selling.
Every time.
There's that fire we needed.
Oh,
All right.
All right. Thank you guys so much.
Yo.
I appreciate it. We will have you guys back again and bring up fire to us. If you guys have any other questions, please reach out to them. Again, I'll post their contact information. Set up a meeting. Set up meetings with your sellers, your buyers. They will jump on a call with you guys. They will answer anything. Use your tools in your toolbox. And these guys are tools. So let's in a good way, not a bad way.
Yeah.
They are tools in our real estate box. So please
Okay.
reach out to them and use them.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
Good
Good luck
right.
back there. Appreciate everyone's time today.
You.
Thanks, guys. We'll talk soon.
See you later.